It's time now for Empowered Family Talk with Phrantceena Halres.
May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Good morning. It's family time, and welcome back to each of our listeners and donors to Empower Family Talk right here on Praise 107.9 in the beautiful Sunshine State of Jacksonville, Florida. Our scripture for today, for your quiet time reading, is 1 Corinthians 4:2 and Titus 1:7, which is a segue to our topic today, we the peoples, paying it forward in this 21st century as we balance the scales of justice within our real estate. We're working together with our local city government officials. Are we prepared? Now, I'm delighted to be joined today by Mrs. Stephanie Burch, who is the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for the Office of the Mayor of Jacksonville, Florida. And I will just introduce Stephanie briefly here. And prior to her role in the mayor's office, Stephanie was appointed by Mayor Curry in November of 2016 as a director of the Neighborhoods Department, where she managed housing and community development, municipal code compliance, environmental quality, animal care and protective services, including mosquito control and neighborhood services. And for those that want to read further, you can certainly go to the Empower Family Talk LinkedIn and learn more about Miss Burch. Welcome to Empower Family Talk, Miss Burch.
Thank you so much for having me, Phrantceena. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to have you here, and anytime we can have our wonderful city leaders to share with our listeners, we're excited about that. And we've had, since we've posted, we've had several questions that have come in, and we'd like for you to try to address as many of those as we can. And we have a first question, if you can share with us in your own words. Listeners are concerned and interested in the city programs, and we'd like to start with your Housing and Community Development Division. What role is the city playing in providing solutions to some of these challenges we have out here today?
Sure. So the Housing and Community Development Division is extremely important for the city of Jacksonville because they fund programs for people who are considered low to moderate income. And that is a definition that's provided by HUD, which is the federal agency, Housing and Urban Development. And so with the Housing and Community Development Division, they receive federal and state dollars every year to provide low to moderate income citizens with various programs. That can range anywhere from, we have a limited repair program where we can provide housing repairs for elderly, disabled, anyone who meets the income requirement. We try to focus on elderly and disabled. But really, it's anyone who meets the income requirements. They stay below a certain level, and it's 80% of the area median income. Wow. Again, that's a definition provided by HUD.
Right.
But that's just one program. We also have many others that they do. We have emergency repair funds set aside for, again, elderly and disabled people. Sometimes in the wintertime, their heater will go out, right, and they need some quick repairs done. Or in the middle of summer with their air conditioner, they might need some repairs done to their AC unit, and so we have certain funds set aside to help people in those instances. But those are just a couple of the programs that we have through the Housing and Community Development Division.
And community development, which I think that's great because those are for folks that have a home. Not Correct. Necessarily first-time home buy, but have a home and just need assistance with that.
Correct.
Great program for the city to help our citizens. Ms. Burch, I think we have a call for you on the line. Let's see who our caller is right here that may have a question. Good morning. Welcome to Empower Family Talk, Mr. James.
And a good morning to you too, Lady Fran. How are you?
Doing very well. How can we answer you have a question for our guest today, Miss Burch?
I do. Yeah, just a quick question. I wanted to know if there's any plans to deregulate energy. We were just talking about helping those that may not be able to get out and get about as much. But just generally, if there's any plans for Jacksonville to deregulate energy.
So, James, that's a great question that I can't say I really have an answer to right now. That's really more of a question for JEA because that is the independent agency, the independent authority in the city of Jacksonville that's really responsible for providing electric and water and sewer services for the city. So, from my perspective, as far as I know, there's no plans to deregulate energy, but certainly there's lots of programs out there that can help people pay their bills, provide funding for people who may receive shut-off notices from their utility provider and other areas like that.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you for your service to the city and the state.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. James, for your call. Okay, Ms. Burch, what an interesting question. It tied right into what you just stated.
I was not ready for that question.
Well, sometimes, when you have call-ins like that, and I think it dovetails well into what you just spoke about, some of the city services about helping folks with their electricity, their utilities, when they run into problems like that. So as we evolve into a support of the citizens, I'm sure that subject will continue to come up. Regulations.
Absolutely.
I'm sure it will. The second thing, and thank you for that on the home, housing, and community development. The second question is neighborhood services. We have various communities and neighborhoods. It depends on what you want to call them. The city's doing some great things there. Can you share with our listeners what services you provide to our neighborhoods?
Sure. So the city of Jacksonville has actually over 200 established neighborhoods within it. And we do the best that we can to get all of those neighborhoods to register as a neighborhood organization. The city has an online directory where the neighborhood can register, and then we ask for their participation in the CPACs. And the CPAC stands for Citizens Planning Advisory Committee, and they meet on a monthly basis. There are 6 of them throughout the city. And they are aligned with the planning districts throughout the city. So we ask that neighborhoods register in our database and then become a member of their local CPAC. And that is a great way for citizens to interact with our local government.
Awesome.
We have department heads who come on a monthly basis, JEA, JTA, JSO, all kinds of agencies that attend to provide updates to the things that they're working on.
Right.
And they spend a lot of time talking about zoning changes to properties throughout their neighborhoods. Sometimes they support the zoning changes and sometimes they don't. But it's a great way for them to really, provide their voice to that process.
And get involved.
That's right.
In the process. And that goes back to the caller question we had. Attending these meetings and registering, you get to hear the updates from JEA and other departments like that. And I think that's a great thing. As we discuss on the show, it takes both sides to balance these scales of justice. So this is a great program for the Neighborhood Services Office. And you also deal with the HOA and condo.
Yeah, so that is a training program that the Neighborhood Services Office offers once a year. They have an attorney come in and actually provide training regarding condo associations and homeowners associations.
That's great.
They're each set up differently pursuant to state law. And so the attorney comes in and just provides, whoever may be acting in an officer position for their condo association or homeowners association. And they just give them some really great, tips and tricks on how to effectively run their organization.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I hope our listeners are writing this down. This is great. This is great that our city is involved at this level. The third point here is we have a lot of military listeners, military families. The question is, what does the city have available in support of our military affairs and veterans departments?
Yes, ma'am. I'm glad you asked that. We have an amazing military and veterans affairs department. They help homeless veterans on a daily basis. They serve as kind of a central point for homeless veterans to come into the office, and they get them set up with whatever services they may need. Awesome. Right now, they're obviously providing tax prep assistance for our military members and veterans. And then also, when homeless veterans come in, they help them find housing, they help them find jobs, they help them find the services that they need. But through the Military Affairs and Veterans Office, they can sometimes provide short-term rent and utility assistance. If for whatever reason someone's just gotten a little bit behind on their bills, they need a little help catching them up to make sure that the heat stays on in the wintertime. They can provide funding for that on a short-term, minimal basis, just to kind of get them caught up. And then they do also provide some transitional housing assistance for clients that may be a part of the Homeless Veterans Reintegration Program.
Well, that's a lot. And it's just, and that program has been very successful.
It has been.
And so for those that need to know, this is good information for our military families, that the city of Jacksonville's team is supporting our military veterans, particularly in the homelessness we have in our city. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, they're working very hard to get our veteran homeless population to what they call functional zero.
Yes.
Which it may not be exactly zero, but overall we call it in the business functional zero, to where every veteran is housed.
And with your background and experience with dealing in neighborhoods and families, you're a very good leader for this initiative in helping our families.
Thank you.
This way.
I do my
best.
best.
Thank you for your services in that area. And this is one question that we often overlook as a part of our real estate and responsibilities as citizens, is our animal care and protective services. Can you speak to our listeners about that? Because we had a lot of questions. I'm trying to funnel them into one. But how does the city support our citizens?
I'm so glad you asked me about that, because that's actually a really important point that people tend to forget about. Those of us who have pets, they are really members of our family.
That's right.
And it's extremely important for us to have resources available out there for people to be able to continue providing food and medical care for their pets. Sometimes they might need behavior training. But in speaking to all of that, we have a couple of programs that help get pets spayed and neutered, because we can't adopt our way out of the problem, which is too many pets in Jacksonville.
Right.
So we have programs that will help pay for spay and neuter surgeries so that they're not reproducing and causing the population growth that has become such an issue for many municipalities. And then we also have a grant that we received last year, where we're able to, through FOJA, which is Friends of Jacksonville Animals.
Awesome.
It's a nonprofit that's set up specifically to help animal care and protective services. But through that organization, we're able to provide funding for people, instead of them coming to the shelter to surrender their animals because they can't take care of them anymore. There's some expense that is just too much for them to bear.
Yes.
We can provide them with funding for medical expenses, for behavior training if that's an issue for their pet. And then also a lot of times for people who may be renting, who may need to rent an apartment, there's usually a pet deposit that they have to put down.
Yes, that's correct.
We can provide funding to cover that as well, so that they're actually able to take their pet with them when they have to move.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And we often forget about our little fuzzy pets, but they're a very important part of our family and God's creation.
That's
so
right.
We have a fiduciary duty to take care of them. And on that note, Miss Burch, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some of that downtown investment development that the city of Jacksonville is doing for our citizens. Thank you, and we'll be right back.
All right.
Do you want to empower families and young people in your community? Then take the time to make a tax-deductible contribution to the Coach Tate Fund. The Coach Tate Foundation is dedicated to helping young people and their families in learning and passing on the kinds of life skills that we all need to succeed. All too often, we hear about kids and their families having encountered life's difficulties that could have been easily avoided by knowing better decision-making skills, from anger management to money management to something as simple as learning to manage how we spend our time or how we use our job skills. Make a donation to the Coach Tate Fund. It'll help kids who need help and their families too. Make your contribution to the Coach Tate Fund. Get details at www.coachtatefoundation.com. And oh, by the way, thank you.
Welcome back to Empower Family Talk right here on Praise 107.9, Jacksonville, Florida. And we'd like to give the number to our callers, 904-831-1079. That's 904-831-1079. Praise 107.9 if you have a question for our guest, Miss Burch. Mrs. Burch, the city is doing so many wonderful things. We can't cover it all on this, so maybe we'll have you back soon. But we certainly had a lot of developers call in and write in about development projects, the downtown investment, and the good things you guys are doing to develop that area for our citizens. Can you speak to our listeners about that?
Sure. So the Downtown Investment Authority, or otherwise known as DIA, has been working extremely hard in concert with the Chamber of Commerce, who last year announced an initiative to where they're trying to get 10,000 residents to live downtown in 10 years. And so I think right now we're at about 4,500 residents downtown. So we're really trying to focus on those housing efforts to bring more residents down to the core of the city of Jacksonville.
Nice.
It's really important. And, everybody likes to talk about, well, we need more retail downtown. We need more restaurant options. We need a grocery store downtown.
Right.
And that all will come, and it's kind of a concurrent effort. So the DIA also has an initiative that they're calling their Retail Enhancement Program.
That's a good one. Yes.
Yeah, so they're really trying to focus on bringing, different businesses, retail establishments, restaurants, and just kind of in general things to do downtown. And they've been working very hard on that. They've gotten some really great mixed income residential developments that have opened recently. They're typically developed by Vescor, and they've become kind of the resident expert on doing the mixed income type residential development. So, and when I say that, what I mean is that they have a certain number of apartment units that are set aside for people who are their income level is at 30% of the area median income or below.
Okay.
Then they set aside another number of apartments for those who are 60% AMI or below. And then the rest of them are rented at market rate. And they're able to do that through the financing that they've gotten in order to construct the apartments in the first place. So they have a lot of financing. They're able to sell bonds and do, either zero or very low cost interest rates for the lending that they've gotten for the projects.
Right.
And that's really how the government's able to help kind of subsidize that type of workforce development, which is really important.
That's very, very important. Because the real estate is our people. The value of the people that we bring. And that downtown development, multi-use facilities, is that on the radar screen where
Absolutely.
You have living quarters at the top? I read something about that you guys are doing.
That's right. The DIA board recently approved a project for development, which is actually on the Ford On Bay site, which is where the World of Nations is today.
Yay! We'll get to see that.
So the DIA board just approved that at their last board meeting, and that is a development where it will be retail on top. Not retail on the first floor, and then residential on top of that. So, which is a really exciting project, which I think will be really great to see on the as a part of the new skyline on the river.
Yes, we're excited about that, and good work for the city of Jacksonville to evolve based on the population that in this 21st century and how we can balance. You guys got a high charge to keep, but we're proud of what you're doing here for our citizens. And another key point that we have here is the 2020 census.
Yes.
Can you talk to us about that?
I would love to. I'm so glad that you brought that up. And it's actually really important to talk about the census in this manner because a lot of our funding, especially for the Housing and Community Development Division, is based exactly on the census. So because we are an entitlement community for HUD, that means that we get a certain amount of funding every year, but the amount of funding that we get from HUD is based on the number of people who live in Duval County. That's it. It's just based on the number of people. So the amount of funding can go up or down depending on what our population sits at. So the 2020 census is coming up. The count day is April 1st.
April 1st.
And it's estimated, the U.S. Census Bureau estimates that for every person who goes uncounted, the city can lose up to $1,500 per person per year in federal funding. And that covers things, not only housing initiatives, but that covers infrastructure. It covers early childhood learning. It covers all kinds of things. So it's extremely important that everybody pay attention to your mailbox.
Yes.
Watch out for that notice that you'll be getting in the middle of March. That is when the first notices will be mailed out by the U.S. Census Bureau. And then make sure you respond on or around April 1st, and make sure you're counted in, everyone in your home is counted.
Absolutely. And everyone matters at this point, because it's the home and the community and its continued funding resources so that you can continue to improve the conditions of our citizens.
That's exactly right.
Everyone has to be counted for.
That's right.
Okay. I believe we have another caller on the line for Miss Burch. Okay. Welcome. Good morning, and welcome to Empower Family Talk. Mr. Eugene?
That's correct.
Yes.
My question is directed toward the guest. She gave out some information about the homeowners.
The Homeowners Association?
Associations a few minutes ago, and I missed that phone number in the last part of her statement. Can she give that to me again? I want to write it down.
Sure, I'd be happy to. You would want to call the Neighborhood Services Office, and that number is 255-8250. And I believe what you're referring to is where I was talking about we encourage all neighborhoods in the city of Jacksonville to register as a neighborhood in our directory, and then join and participate in our CPACs, which are Citizens Planning Advisory Committees.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for your call, sir.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.
Good deal. That's good, because I always believe it takes both sides.
You're exactly right.
It takes, the city is a leader in pioneering these programs, but it's upon our citizens to actually pick up that phone and give you a call and say, how can we get involved, learning and getting involved.
That's right. Thank you so much for that perspective.
Yes. And the other question we have, and there's a lot of scamming and corruption going on in these areas, but we want to talk about the good services you're bringing, social services division, and your senior services division, and it couples into disabled. All of it kind of rolls in together. And I just try to codify the questions we had so you can maybe address that for our listeners.
Sure. Yeah. Actually, all three of those divisions are housed within the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Department.
Okay.
And what those divisions do, they have obviously different, different initiatives, but as far as housing issues go, the Social Services Division, they actually have different funding buckets to provide short-term rent, mortgage, and utility assistance to prevent homelessness. They also provide a victim service center, which is set up to help victims and family members of those who have survived a violent crime. Awesome. So they can sometimes provide funding assistance if they need funding for something like that. The Senior Services Division, they have funding where they can help pay for, minimal home repairs, homemaking services. That's, it's a situation to where if someone is elderly and doesn't have the means to really maintain their home, this division can generally help with finding assistance for that. Also, they have an EHEAP program, which helps seniors. It helps them provide funding up to $600 to help seniors with their heating bill, if they need to purchase fuel oil for heating, or if they've received a shutoff notice. They can help kind of catch up their bills for that. And then the Disabled Services Division has a really great program where They can help construct or repair wheelchair ramps. So for those individuals who, maybe are new to a wheelchair and, their house is not outfitted with that, they can help provide funding for that. And then they also have a program to where they can help those who are disabled get their trash cans from the curb to the house or from the house to the curb. They have someone who actually will come out and help them take care of that to make sure that their trash is picked up on time.
Well, that overcomes any corruption because the city has good systems built in for our listeners.
We do.
To identify those who are genuine and those who are scamming the system and saying they're disabled and need Social Security. So you can trust the city to provide that straight path forward for those that really need it.
That's right. Every one of these programs, whoever is applying, there's an application process.
Yes.
And so they are absolutely screened. We have to verify their income. We have to verify their age, their living situation, all of that.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So take heart, listeners. We have a city that's on top of all of that and looking for those that really need it. Now we have a few minutes left, Miss Burch, and I'd like to, we're going to have you back, I'm sure. We've got several things that we didn't get to address, like the real estate division. But I'd like for you to kind of share with our listeners your last closing thoughts about what they can do to be a part of the city solution and not the problem.
I think the greatest thing is to help your neighbors.
Awesome.
We get people who call the city all the time, and I've talk to people who are complaining about trash being on their neighbor's lawn or their neighbor's lawn, growing too high. And, the city can't take care of everything.
Yes,
so
that's right.
I echo your comments, Phrantceena. I appreciate them so much because we don't get to say it enough where, your neighbor might be elderly or disabled and they may need assistance. So help them out from time to time.
That's it.
Be a good neighbor.
Be a good neighbor.
That's really what I have to say about it.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Burch. I tell you, it's been a pleasure to have you on our show today. And we wish all the best to you and the city of Jacksonville in supporting our citizens in this great city. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
And we also want to congratulate all of our World of Nation winners of the tickets. And we look forward to seeing you there today and tomorrow. Another city special event that we want to come out and join in with other nations. And at this point, we're going to close until next week. Same time, same station. Praise 107.9, Jacksonville, Florida. I am Phrantceena Tate Halres, your hostess.
Thank you for joining Phrantceena Halres on Empowered Family Talk. Tune in next week.